Spooky earth? Nah. Possessed dirt? No. Oh, I know what we should call this movie. Hallowed ground. This is the 2007 supernatural horror film that is about a scarecrow. Kinda. But before we get into it, make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. And also like my Facebook fan page and support me on Patreon. Even $1 a month will help keep this channel going strong and thriving, and I greatly appreciate it. And as always, hit that notification bell and subscribe. Alright, let's get into this. The plot. So a woman drives into this town. She's decently welcomed, and she goes off with a reporter who is doing a story about this house, this legend of the Scarecrow. And, well, lo and behold, it attacks. Now the woman has to fight for survival against not only the Scarecrow, but the town as well. There's a legend around here about a preacher gone wrong. So, it's the preacher done wrong story again. Okay, let's see how this one handles itself. For starters, I do like that this film gets into the horror right away. The intro sets up the backstory, then we follow the main actress. She goes on an adventure, and then BAM! The main story begins. While it is not as quick to start as other Scarecrow movies, a la Scarecrows from 1988 and Husk, it does have a decent punch to it. Also, the actress, Jamie Alexander, who also played in Rest Stop, does give us a pretty solid performance as a character with a backstory as well as a lot of meaning to the plot. I mean, sure, it was the typical, oh, she was destined to come here story that has been done countless times. Off the top of my head, I can think of one, Children of the Corn, 666 Isaac's Return. There's definitely others, kind of like Silent Hill Revelations. I think that one had that too. Or even the first Silent Hill movie. I'm not sure, but moving on. However, that can be forgiven if the execution proves to be strong enough. However, I feel this film should have been dealt with a bit differently. My biggest complaint is that for this being a killer Scarecrow movie, there's hardly any Scarecrow. This does deal more with possession, but I feel this would have been a much better story had the Scarecrow been featured as the main antagonist. It makes the fact that this has a killer Scarecrow in it quite pointless. Unlike in Night of the Scarecrow, which I did also review, and you can check it out. I'll leave a link to it up here, or over here, depending on which side this camera angle is going for. Anyways, Dark Night of the Scarecrow, it has a Scarecrow in it, but it's just a representation of something that is to come, pretty much. So it's not really in it a lot, but it's handled a lot better than this, which is just some evil preacher. I will give it credit that this film does handle the subgenre of evil priests a little bit differently. To get back to the positives, though, there is a new priest in this town in the modern age that it takes place in, played by Ethan Phillips, Neelix from Star Trek Voyager, as well as the Purge election year. I had no idea that was him until I looked it up and I was like, anyways, the preacher in modern times is a bit of a creep, but then when he reveals what his intentions are, it's quite hilarious. You can't help but laugh, but at the same time you are creeped out and unsettled by it. I do wish he were in the movie longer though, but oh well. Speaking of characters I wish were in the movie longer, Chloe Grace Moretz. Yes, that's right, Chloe Grace Moretz is in this movie. She plays Sabrina. Prior to this, Chloe Grace Moretz was in the Amityville Horror remake, and has gone on to make quite a name for herself. She does have a lot to deal with in this film, including the death of family members, and trying to survive these crazy people. However, there is one scene where she cries where I found it hard to understand what she was trying to say. However, I will give her a pass because I know she was very young at this time, and that other than a few deliveries, she does a pretty good job. Although she does remind me of Newt from Aliens a bit too much. There would be no Newt without a Ripley. And our stand-in for her in this movie is Liz Chambers, played by, as I said, the main actress, Jamie Alexander. She does have quite the tragic backstory, and I do feel this film plays it out quite well. It's not like she's being a jerk to everybody, she just wants to get away. Sheriff O'Connor, played by Brian McNamara. Gotcha. Who also played the nerdy spider scientist in Arachnophobia, does a good job as the trustworthy sheriff. He's not from the town originally, and I was happy about that. It's like, oh, so there's a different kind of character in this movie. They're not just all going after her. There is a reveal and a twist that he goes through that is quite shocking, to say the least. He does keep the town as safe as he can. Speaking of the town, it is really well shot, and the cornfields definitely add a southern flair to it all. The film is very well lit, even in the darkest or most cluttered of places, and that helps a great deal. There's the cornfield, which I can only imagine how hard it is to shoot in them. Still, visibility is there, even when people are running through them. In the cornfields, there's a hole in the ground that the town obviously knew about, but no one bothered to check if they were down there trying to hide, which was a bit far-fetched. They literally had to be told, go check out that hole in the ground that we all know about but haven't checked out yet. The story as a whole is decent, even if a bit flawed. It reminded me a lot of Valley of the Scarecrow, which is a book I reviewed, and I'll post a link for it up here or here, whatever side, like I said, when I have the review up. Valley of the Scarecrow had the evil preacher. This has the evil preacher coming back, but I think Valley of the Scarecrow handles it a lot better. The gore, the effects, it's not the goriest film, but there is some red stuff. The scene where a side character gets it really early on is pretty visceral. As for the Scarecrow, I really do like the design. He's got like a bag for a face, or a face for a bag. Either way, that bag has a face on it. The motion picture soundtrack, the music is a bit stock, kind of like something you would find in a Halloween party theme song pack. Still, it wasn't awful, and it did kind of fit the movie quite well. Did it kind of, or did it fit quite well? Make up your mind. I know that's not saying much to praise the music or the film, but it's still a decent movie, don't get me wrong. This film felt like they had a couple storylines, put them together, and added a Scarecrow in last minute for the marquee value, because in the mid-2000s, Scarecrows were all the rage, so now they're seemingly coming back with even lower budgeted films. I did enjoy most of the performance. The camera work and lighting were good, and the Scarecrow looked amazing. Still, this film lacked heart and soul. That's at least what I felt. It could have been a great story if certain things had more effort put into them. That is not a knock at the filmmakers, cast, or crew. I'm sure they were trying to make a great story and a movie. I just found it to be kind of subpar and forgettable. I watched this when it first came out, and I forgot a lot about it. Watching it again, I can see why. Overall, I give Hallowed Ground a 2 out of 5. Lion Brian Gatto, the horror show host. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. Like my Facebook fan page and to support me on Patreon. Even $1 a month will help keep this channel going on strong, thriving, and I'd greatly appreciate it. And as always, hit that notification bell and subscribe.